Meeting of the Executive Finance Subcommittee of Chair to order at 11:32. Councilman Keener, would you mind saying anything?
Dear Lord God, Father Creator, thank you today for us to get able to meet here and discuss the business of the Cherokee people. Father, I thank you that we can meet here and discuss freely ideas and so forth together. Father, thank you that all here are welcome, and thank you that we have this opportunity to speak freely and do so. Father, thank you for those who have gone before us to be examples and lead the way. Father, I pray for our families, whatever needs or problems they may have, that you be watching over them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Chet Hoskin Jr., Bill England, Jody Fishinghawk, here. Don Garvin, Frankie Hargis, present. Hannah Gloria Jordan, Lee Keener,
Homney.
Dick Lay,
Here.
Curtis Snell, David Thornton,
Present.
David Walkenstick, Kara Callan Watts.
Honey,
We do have a quorum.
Yes. How do y'all want to take this? Do y'all want to start going through section by section?
yes, Madam Chair, I would really appreciate it if we could go, and please clarify what this is that has been handed out versus what's in the book.
I have just got here the Councilwoman Watts. This is the AG's office here.
Nason, sorry, I assume you're representing the AG's office?
Yes.
If you come forward and talk to Miss, I've got a call from Chuck that he would be here and I needed to chair this committee. Could you come forward and talk to him about the handout? Do you have a copy?
No, ma'am.
And you divide them into two? Yeah, they wanted the contact and the comment. I have not had an opportunity to review this one. I do know that they did have a discussion regarding dividing them up between one for contractors and one for Cherokee Nation, and they'd look similar, but that way there'd be no question as to which portion applied to which entity, and it would avoid some confusion.
Okay, so one of the books, the undivided one, and this one is just pulled out the contracting law. What's the body's pleasure?
Madam Chair, may we start with the contracting law, because I think that will have the most immediate effect potentially. Now, of course, I haven't read it, so I don't know what's different, and I don't know if there's, okay, very good. Thank you.
I guess start at section 4, the red lines, the changes. And John Rucker Sharon, let's start in. If you have any questions.
And Madam Chair, just so is John gonna lead the discussion? Is that the plan on helping us go through this section by section?
Either way, I don't care if Jason is ready or the changes, it really doesn't matter.
If y'all would rather John lead it? Or
We can do it jointly, that's fine.
That way you can just do any question you had on each part.
Okay,
Either
very
way.
good. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
All right, so on page 2 of 18, on the one that's in the handout concerning contractors, so I'm concerned when I read that, it says employing 2 or more persons. So what if it is a, like, DBA, like it's a sole proprietorship, it's a single person operation that it does not hire anyone, and it's just a one person.
We can take that out. We can adjust anything that you guys want in here. We just took some stuff out of the old law and actually put some of the stuff back in with just a few changes. The only part we changed here is that we took out the contractor, subcontractor, and made it any company. Any company doing business with us will be considered as a contractor, not just, but we can actually omit the part where if you want to take out the
So
two.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to strike in the first sentence, the last 5 words, employing 2 or more persons.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, may I continue? So, David, did you want to have a question?
Yeah, I have a question on contractors. Is there anywhere in here where it specifically says what a contractor is? Is this a contractor that's 51% Cherokee or more? Or what is it? Does that mean just any contractors can come up here and?
Any contractor can do business with us. It's just listing all companies will be considered as a contractor, whether they are Terra certified contractors or companies, or they're non-Indian. Because we will have, we still, after this law is passed, we will still have non-Indian companies actually doing work with the Cherokee Nation and C&E and C&B. If, for the simple fact, sometimes we won't have Terra vendors that are in this business as well. So we're gonna have both Indian-owned and non-Indian-owned contractors.
Well, should there be some type of wording in there to the effect that if it isn't a Terrell contract vendor or Terrell vendor contract, that then you can revert back to non-Terrell?
Well, right now, we're in the definition stage. The first few pages are just definitions of labeling for throughout the act.
That's the reason I'm bringing this up.
Well, if you'll go to page 3 on N, we actually list the Indian-owned economic enterprise shall mean any Indian-owned commercial, industrial, business activity established or organized for purpose of profit, provided such Indian owners constitute not less than 51% of that enterprise. So we labeled all the contractors, and then we specifically labeled Indian-owned businesses on the 3rd page. Does that help you out? Does that answer what you want, or do we need to change something else too?
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Figure it out.
We have point of it, so, Councilman Thornton, I believe that we're going to address that in other parts. And if not, I'm with you.
If not possible,
You-
be a
but-
Terrell, then you can convert.
Absolutely, and I think those preferences probably are in here, but I think what is important that I hear coming from Mr. Overacker is that for the first time, we may be able to have compliance that if we hire a non-Indian marketing company, for example, that we would then be able to have them comply with the rest of the Tarot law, which should have been being done anyway. So if they have to hire a secretary, it would be a Cherokee secretary to staff that contract and not, we'd be able to push out Indian preference throughout our contracts. So it's really, and they haven't been able to do that the way I understand because of the confusion in doing like construction contracts versus vendors, like.
The only thing I'm getting at is that if you just throw the word contractor out there, then you're throwing anybody and everybody. You're not
Yes, sir.
specifically saying it's a Terrell contractor
That's
or
right.
In this one, in the act, every time you see the word contractor, that's what it's referring to. If they refer to it by a different label, like a.
what's that? What's that they're referring to?
The contractor is anyone who just has a contract with any of our businesses or the government side. That Terrell applies to them.
What you all did is define contractor, that's all this part is.
Yes.
There is an Indian-owned contractor later on. What
Correct,
you're
yes.
basically saying is any contractor, period, we have jurisdiction over.
Correct.
Yes. And we divide them out on how they're different other places in the
Later
act.
on in the definition.
Oh,
Mr. Peter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, yeah, that's what my comment is too. I think the intent is to simply clarify what you do mean by contractor. Striking contractor and subcontractor is superfluous when you already said contractor shall mean any person, et cetera. So
Correct.
that's the intent,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Right.
Well, the question used to be, do we have control over non-natives on our soil versus not on our soil? Or there was a big debate about this. We wanted control over anybody who's getting our dollars.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, go on.
you know, because in the past, I know that we've had contractors out of New York. like the old boy said, New York City. And they wouldn't pay their subcontractors down here that were Cherokee contractors. So we've had that problem in the past, and that's one reason we look for this. Anyway, we need to eliminate that kind of thing. I don't like to just don't have contractors, and then we live and all. Anyway,
Okay, you want to speak to the next change, number E? Just go down the list. Oh, Councilman Keenan. Councilman Lane.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, the sport crew is probably one of the things that I get calls about as much as anything else from our people or our, what I would call the guys who work, or ladies who work. And so, what the sport crew is so important. I want to know from legal and from you, John, are we really defining core crew? Are we gonna let them bring in anybody that they want to and say, oh, that's my core crew? You can't replace him or her.
On my side, I'll answer our part, and then he can tell me if it's legal what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do, when a business comes in, a construction company or even different companies that come in, if they're setting up a networking infrastructure for anything or that too, they come in, the owner of the company is a core crew member, whether they're Indian owned or they're non-Indian owned, because he knows the ins and outs of his company, and he may have a supervisor, and they may have another person in management if the contract's big enough. But after what we're designating right now is the owner of the company and anyone who is in a key position, such as a supervisor or management level or a lead person in that area, so that they can, if we replace them with somebody who didn't know that company would suffer. Now, I'll give you an example. If it's a big construction company like a drywall at the new, the Hard Rock remodel we're doing, we may have to have the owner and 4 supervisors there because that's a big project. We go back to the housing side or a small project here, for instance, like the recycling center here that we're building. You know, that may be the owner of the company and 1 supervisor, because there only may be 5 or 6 employees there. We're not going to allow a company to list 5 supervisors that are all doing the work. You know, a supervisor is in management. We're going to verify that these people are in management and that their role is that. If they're not, they're replaceable. A carpenter now is replaceable. An electrician is replaceable. A plumber is replaceable. Because right now, if you have an electrical company and you lose an electrician, you just go hire another one. Your business does not shut down because you lost 1 out of 20 electricians. Now, if you lost a key person in your business, that's going to hinder your business, and that's how we looked at it. And we also took out the 1 year, right, under the current law, if a person who is even a laborer or anywhere has been with the company for more than 1 year, we can't touch them. They by law, they get to stay on the project. We actually took that out. So now there's no time limit. They can be with that company 5 years, 6 years, and things like that.
And we're putting in here who would face serious financial loss. Who's to say who that is? Federal office or?
The staff will go through there and we will actually go through and everything else. And if we have any questions, they're actually going to have to prove to us what kind of loss they're going to have.
So they're not going to be able to tell you. Let's say this drywall company usually has 2 supervisors. And now this is a big job, like you just said. Now they're going to have 5. And so, you know, that 1 year rule, I heard you took that's a good thing. So are you going to be able to suggest to them or tell them, well, you know, you usually have 2. That's your core group. These other 3 that you're hiring, we would like for them or we want them to be Cherokee preference? What would happen there?
On the supervisor, if it's a key position, they're probably not going to hire anyone. They're probably just not going to bring them. What I'm going to do is tell them, okay, here's the deal. If you have to have a supervisor, you only need 1 supervisor supervising the site, or 1 safety person. You know, it depends how the contract. I don't need 3 supervisors out there supervising the same 10 guys or the same 20 guys. So we're going to not let them bring, if the 2 other supervisors are 2 non-Indians, they're not going to come on site. We're going to cross them off the core crew list and say, you can't come on site. This is what changes the whole law for us. It gives us the opportunity to pick and choose who actually comes on site and who we actually ask them to replace.
And that's one thing I've got here. You're willing to do this. Someday you'll retire. The next guy in your place may look at it in a different light. Should we try to nail this down in a law, or should we allow you that flexibility to handle it?
I don't think, once we start this in 4 or 5, unless you guys get rid of me or something, but in like 3 or 4 years, we start going to doing this process, and we have a 3-year track record, and something happens, you know, and hit by the big yellow bus, as they say. The next guy coming in that doesn't do this, you guys are going to have all of your constituents calling, or whoever is in the tribal council 5 years, 6 years from now, they're going to be calling their tribal council members saying, this isn't right, Terrell did this is what's gonna happen. And that tribal council they'll be forced to have the same Terrell do the same thing. So I think once we start it, you can't go back. It's just like when we started doing all the Terrell preference and forcing people to hire more of our Cherokee citizens. We can't take a step back now because we're already so far out there. Everybody's starting to know what we're doing. They know that you're going to give Terrell preference. You're going to do this. The companies are going to hire our Cherokee citizens. So we just keep moving forward, and it's getting to be a simpler process for the companies to actually do business with us. The hardest part is the ones that haven't actually done business with us, then it's a learning process for them. So we're moving, and the ball is rolling down the hill, as they say, and it's getting easier and easier to do everything that we're doing. So I think even if we can make it more strict, but this is, I mean, I don't know, Nathan, is this pretty strict? I mean, this is pretty, unless you think we need to change something else.
Do you have any regulation that defines a key position?
I don't think that we do. That's why we go back on the serious financial damage or loss. I mean, they have to prove how they're going to do a serious or financial damage. if
So
we
it has to
remove
be
that
someone
person.
that's either the primary supervisor or someone that the job pretty much can't go forward without.
Right.
And they have to show you why they can't go forward.
Yeah, and the reason we do that, let's say for instance, when we were doing I'll give you an example, when we were doing the trash thing over there, Stillwell, the landfill, we had to actually, we brought that company in to do the plastic liner. When we actually shut that job down, remember Jody, we stopped them all from working for like a day. And come to find out, we didn't realize that the people that needed to be on there had to have a certification by the EPA that they had to be able to weld plastic. You know, so those people had to come because it put that company, if we put anybody in there to do the welding the plastic, that company would face serious financial damage if it leaks, because it goes back into the groundwater and everything else. So that's the kind of stuff that we may not, you know, they're gonna have to prove to us how that person is a key position.
And I think what he just mentioned, I'd like to make possibly, I don't want to take up any more time, but a discussion of who a key employee is, because that's, trust me, I get a lot of calls. And thank you.
Is there a way that your nation thinks can address this concern?
We could try to put a definition or a criteria in the regulations that Taro produces to define what a key employee is. Or you could do it legislatively.
I'm sorry. Whenever I hear about regulations and policy guides, that makes me jump a little bit, because a regulation and a policy guide actually eventually becomes law. And that's why we're here, is trying to tie all these loose ends down with this law. And that's my question. Should we try to do it right here, right now? And or allow somebody else to do it for us? And I'll be honest with you, John, some people tell me that your payroll guy, I get calls, this guy's really working for us, he's hard, he's strict, and this guy here doesn't do nothing. And so I wonder who's gonna write those regs? And are they going to be loose, or are they gonna be tight on them?
Well, after we actually, after this body passes the new law, you know, the general provisions we actually go by, we actually have to rewrite all of that. Our new policies and procedure, our guidelines, is going to have to be written because there are so many changes in that. I mean, we could actually take out the key position if you even wanted to make it even more strict, and just leave it as the owner and supervisor are the only two people that actually have the right to come on site. I mean, we can do it that strict if you choose to.
And that's pretty tight.
That's as tight as you can get.
And let you all make a call.
Yeah, so if that's what you guys want to do, then we can actually, you can actually do it that way. We can just take out the key position and just have supervising, this, the owner of the firm or an employee who's in the supervisory position are the only two people that are on the core crew list.
I would leave it in, but put general guidelines of what a key person is. And it depends on, it's probably not a good idea to put it in the legislation because of so many different areas that you'd be dealing with contracting, because it may be as long as 2 or 3 pages long just to figure out which industry would have that type of key employee. So that would probably be better to have it in regulations, but something more than what's a key employee for the Terrell office to look at and go, it's got to be someone that, and they just set it out for each different type of job.
I like what you're saying here, but part of the problem I'm having with our present payroll laws is, let's face facts, some of these big companies are pretty sharp, they got lawyers, they can find a loophole around just about anything. And I want to close those loopholes, and I don't know whether to try to do it here or allow the regulations to do it. And that's what I'm asking.
I don't have the factual expertise to write one. We would have to get with someone who actually knows, like on a construction job, I wouldn't know how to put first thing by getting on site. I just write things to way you want them. So I'd have to have someone who actually knows what they're looking for in a key employee for that area, and I can make it say what you want it to say. So your intent actually comes through in the act. But I would have no idea how to define a key employee.
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to take the keyword out. Let me see where it's at.
How would you read that next sentence?
Who is, let's see, an owner of a firm or an employee who is in a supervisory position such that,
Is all supervisory positions key? Is there any way around that?
Well, if they're over employees, it's kind of tough to actually, that's a little different situation, I think. But, and I don't know how all business works, so I'm not an expert on that.
Okay.
But a supervisor is in management. I mean, you would think that when most of the time they are supervisors, they are more adept with the company and how the interactions of the proceedings, everything with the company goes, the bill paying, and things like that if they need to be.
Jody, it looks like to me, after an owner of the firm, you just track the rest of that.
Yes, core crew shall mean so you don't want to put supervisor in, you want a core crew list. Core crew member shall mean the owner of a firm or a person in a supervisory position of the company. That's, if we leave supervisory, and that's the two we have.
I'd almost put actual supervisor. And some of these jobs, you tell me if I'm wrong, they got people listed as a supervisor that really aren't.
Well, that's what we have to actually go see.
Yeah.
That's what the compliance officers are going to have to go, when they go out on site, they're going to make sure that if we're going out there, that the supervisor, we go out there today, that John Oberecker, supervisor, isn't out there swinging a hammer, and then the second day, John Oberecker is out there doing the same thing on the job, and he's not supervising anybody. So that's, the Terrell staff is actually, the compliance officers are going to have to verify that all supervisors are actually supervisors.
Okay, and owner of the firm or
A supervisor of the firm.
an owner of the firm, comma, or an employee who is in a supervisory and position seems to work, take out or other key position, and so it would read supervisor position such that the employer would face.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Could I have it read one more time, please, the actual wording, please?
Yes.
Or I can read it as I understand it.
Let's see, beginning on core crew, its core crew shall mean an owner of the firm, comma, or an employee who is in a supervisory position such that the employer would face a serious financial damage or loss.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. I got one by Frankie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And by the way, I still want to talk about the contractor definition. We got off that when I, but anyway, on this motion, how are we gonna deal like with technical staff, like an environmental specialist or engineers or that kind of stuff? Even if they're not, are we just gonna make them replace them?
No, what we do right now, I think on the supervisor side, if we have a construction project or different projects where they just hire a supervisor that starts that first day, then we may have somebody who's qualified as that person.
No,
Because that happens
and
on
I agree
construction
with that.
projects.
But
But
what is, how does it work with these others?
if they have qualifications, like certifications that they have to have, we actually ask for the certifications.
Okay,
Because,
very good.
one, we don't just say, well, I wanna, a company can't just come to us and say, Willard, I need a certified this, and this, when only a certified this and this would work. They try to do that with like, drywall people too. Well, I need somebody with 5 years experience. No, you don't. You know, you need someone with a couple years that knows what they're doing. We're not looking for the most qualified, we're looking for a qualified individual. So we're not taking one that's 7 years. If the one in 2 years is 2 years is enough to be qualified, they have to take the one that's 2 years experience as well.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Kent?
No, my question was answered, thank you.
Under contractors, and it
Okay,
seems
hold
like.
on, hold on, let's vote on this, and then we're gonna go back, because you and Kara both have questions on it. Okay. All right, second by Frankie, all in favor? All opposed?
Under contractors, it seems like what we're talking about here is construction. Is that
No.
what's in this?
No, the reason we changed
I don't
this
see any where it
is,
says vendor contract.
well, the reason we changed it to contractor, anyone who holds a contract with the government or the business side, they will be a contractor. So anyone who holds a contract now falls under Terrell regulations.
Well, I know I'm probably getting ahead of us here, but what I really would like to see is some way that when we buy materials or whatever from vendors, that there's some way to go back in and check on the price list, because I've been told several times that the materials that we're buying from these Terrell vendors are quite a bit higher in price than other vendors sell these materials for. And I've also been told that if we do this, then, and we have to go through a Terrell vendor all the time, why can't we get a local Terrell vendor, and then someone that, if we need a part, we have to order it from that Terrell vendor, and it may take a week for them to ship it to us. So, we've got a problem in there somewhere. If they're two prices higher on a relay for air conditioner, then why are we not checking those prices and making sure that they fall within the certain guidelines that we put out? Why don't we put out some guidelines?
I think for me, that's up to the department, the individual departments that they're looking at. If you're going to order something, you know, you want to do your due diligence because it's your budget. So you want to do your due diligence to make sure that you're getting the best price. You know, a lot of times there are 3 or 4 Terrell vendors that actually provide the same product. For instance, like a relay switch, you could actually get one from C&L Supply out of Anita, or you could actually get one out of Pryor, and there may be one other person. You know, you can actually call all 3 to get the best price. You know, they're not going to, all 3 of them aren't going to be the highest price. And we do understand that there needs to be price checks for some of these Terrell vendors who are the only business that are doing work with the nation. You know, I think C&E, Jason, and you guys actually get some quotes every once in a while to do some price checks to make sure if they're using Terrell vendors that they do stay. And they even do, I think, with their non-Terrell vendors that they use to make sure they're getting the best price. So it's a little more work on our end, on the department side. But I think, you know, if we can actually do that. When I first started years ago, the Terrell vendors were the highest. Am I talking to that? Sorry. The Terrell vendors did real high. A lot of them did, but it was a learning process. You know, they started learning and everything how to actually bid. They came through and realized this is the market. For instance, on the housing side, the housing rehab side that we do, 99% of all those contracts, if not 100%, all go to Terrell vendors now. And every time I look at the bids, if 5 companies bid, the 4 Terrells bid, they're the 4 lowest ones. Because they've learned how to bid, they've actually learned how to do some things. And it might be more on our part, even with the help of Anna's staff, to give the Terrell vendors the training and how to actually put a proper bid together, why their bid is so high. Maybe we need to do some one-on-one training with them to help them come in line with us.
Well, I get the, I get complaints, and then when I go and want them to go back and give me the information, well, they're afraid to, because they're afraid that it's gonna have something to do with their job, and if they go back and got a Carroll finger, they're gonna get fired, or they're gonna get run off, or something of that nature. But anyway, what they was showing me was buying a part, and they could get it from another vendor a whole lot cheaper than what they're paying. So that was just this last winter. So, it hadn't been like 2 or 3 years ago.
It does happen. It does happen, and it's going to happen with any business, whether they're Terrell or non-Terrell. You keep buying the same products over from the same companies, they're not going to process the cost savings to
Put it in
you.
that contract where they have to deliver within a day or 2 days, or?
On that side, there is some outs in the purchasing policy that you can actually, if it's an emergency, they don't have to, if they need it today, for instance, if we had an elder that their hot water tank went out, and we have to wait to go to Veneta, to drive to Veneta, if it's 6 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we don't force them to go. I tell people all the time, and several of my staff do, if it's an emergency, just go get it. We're here for our citizens.
We need that in the contract.
Okay.
So these people won't have to worry about what they're doing, and they can go down and get the kitchen right there, where they in the town or city or whatever.
Well, we have never, the Terrell has never forced someone in an emergency situation to have to wait for something like that.
How about CMB? Have they ever?
C&B has emergency situations, and actually, I've had several conversations with Jason where they've had to actually just call different people and say, look, this is what we did with, and they call 3 or 4 Terrell vendors to get a good price. If the Terrell vendors should get them to see when they can actually deliver it. If they can't deliver it in the time period, then they say then they have to go to the person that's going to deliver it because they have to have it.
I'll go back to these people and talk to them.
And actually, they can call me if they want, and I will actually address it with the Terrell vendor myself.
Okay.
I have no problem addressing if a Terrell vendor's out of line in their pricing and things like that.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you. I know it doesn't have a concern here. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 things now at this point. So first of all, on the discussion that just occurred, why is there not a way, like, if we have a Cherokee-owned Ace Hardware, I think they franchise, or other local hardware store or office supply store or such, why would we not ask if they're within pricing that even in emergency situations that those be made aware that they should be purchasing from them instead of going to Walmart, who does nothing for the Cherokee Nation?
Oh, I agree. As far as the office supplies, we actually do have vendors that actually have stuff on hand they could get it from that day.
Why
But
can't
when
we
you're
create
looking-
the same model for some of the other stuff? Like if we know that probably more than likely, even over a 2 or 3 year time frame, that we're gonna have an emergency need for generators or air conditioning units, why would those not be like some kind of known,
Ask them to keep them on hand.
not necessarily keep them on hand, but that the staff would know that they could go to those places and get it at a reasonable price? Maybe it's done like once a year or something like that. If they're bigger ticket items, that could mean a huge difference in our small businesses, I guess.
It is, if it's under 5,000, I think on the government side, we try to use Cherokee Ontario's right off the bat. First, right, Rebecca? That's what we do. And they do, I think what David was talking about, when they keep using the same one, the prices, we don't get the price breaks. I'll give an example of Walmart, why some of the, and actually they tried, that I know they tried to do, is for instance, like going and buying picture frames at Walmart, you can get those things for $3 a piece, and the Terrell vendor charges, the cheapest one that I found was $11. So, you're buying 100 of them, $300 compared to $800 is, and in my budget, that's $500 that I could send So I could, $500, I could send somebody through a security guard training and have them paid and on a job site.
And I totally appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we don't create another loophole
I
that
agree.
doesn't encourage local taro buying.
I agree, and I think with the.
Some of our emergencies can accumulate to a lot of dollars in our economy very quickly.
Well, emergency has to be defined as well too. You know,
Okay.
because, poor planning is not an emergency. If you forget to order something, that's not an emergency. You know, if your pipe breaks, that's an emergency. But if
Okay.
you know a conference is coming up and you need 500 promotional items and you don't do it till the day before, well, to me, that's not really an emergency.
Okay, very good. So I have one more question, Madam Chair. So on contractor, are we gonna be very clear, that's only in this definition, even though we struck those 5 words on the end? So we're only pushing this out on our actual jobs. We're not pushing it past into their business necessarily.
For contractors.
Unless, on contractors on the definition. So the way I read it, because I'm trying to vet the definition fully, contractor shall mean any person, company, or other entity located in or on Cherokee Nation Indian country, engaged in work with the Cherokee Nation. Its entities or wholly owned corporations. That's that first of the 2 sentences for the definition. So when it later applies, we will only exert our taro law unless they try to get certified, except for the certification part. But we're not gonna say that they have to hire for other stuff if they get taro certified. Only on our contracts are we gonna force compliance, right?
Correct. Any contract we have, we're going to enforce compliance. And this changes, this goes all the way out to actually the businesses that we own as well. So we included those now into the businesses. For instance, the Cherokee CRC will be all the businesses that we have there at the interchange building will actually fall under the same process because we actually include them as an employer now. Cherokee Nation has businesses.
So we are now going to acknowledge that we have to comply. The government and the government-owned businesses.
Correct.
Now they're gonna have to comply at all times because they're always doing our business.
Correct.
Okay, even the ones that are out of state, correct?
Correct.
All right, very good. Thank you.
That was a big discussion when I talked to them, the fact that they've never had to comply before until
And
we
we
put
need
it
to
in law.
change that because this is.
Okay.
we
Thank
need
you,
to
Madam
take that.
Chair.
You bring that up.
Thank you,
That's-
John.
That's what we need to take out.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That was just
I'm
what-
sorry, I have one technical change to D. When it starts the beginning of the second line, I'll read the whole part. Contractor shall mean any person, company, or other entity located in or on Cherokee Nation Indian Country. I would like to strike located in or on Cherokee Nation Indian Country, because when you read that definition with the B above, that limits it to people who are doing business on Indian land.
Yeah, it locks us up.
So
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion
That's
made.
okay, I was trying to do that. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to
Okay,
to read it for everyone, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Beginning with D, contractor shall mean any person, company, or other entity engaged in work with the Cherokee Nation, comma, its entities or wholly owned corporations. And with the other change, the period would go there. And the next sentence would be the term contractor includes Cherokee Nation, comma, its entities and wholly owned corporations, comma, federal, comma, state, and county government agencies. And but should probably be and. The word but includes probably should be and includes. If
Yeah, and I'll take that, and we'll also include the second sentence, the word but, B-U-T, to and, A-N-D. Okay.
Yes.
any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And for motion passed. Is all questions been answered on that section D and E?
debarment list, we're adding that into there. That's been added in. I think that was from Mr. Hoskins, who wanted us to put that in there. We currently have a committee form, and we're waiting to get, we're still in the process of getting everything rolling for the policies for that, but we do have a 5-person committee that will actually oversee the debarment process that was put in place by the executive order. But I understand the executive order may not exist by this body. They may just roll that part into the law. So we actually need to include the debarment policy into the law if you guys are going to carry that part forward. Is that?
And I think later you have the appeals process and those kind of things. So we may have to come back to this definition after we get into this.
Yes.
But there needs to be a deletion. And if there's no, what I would ask is, instead of a motion, if there's no opposition from the committee, after rules, we need to delete a space between rules and the comma. And that's an extra comma after regulations, if I remember or recall my English classes correctly, so.
You go over that again?
Yes, Councilman Thornton from Sequoia County.
Okay.
Delete the rule, space between rules and the comma, and delete the comma after regulations in G, the debarment list.
I wonder if there's an exception to that when you're trying to focus in on each change that's done here. I understand the grammar part of it. But what they're trying to point out is, let's pay attention to this, rules and regulations and or laws. So I don't see any problem with the comments the way they are.
I'd like to get it, depends on if you're working with AP style, Chicago or whatever. I am English, but you can put a comma after or in a list or, I mean, or and, neither one's correct, depending on the style you work.
Can we at least delete the space?
Yes, I agree with you. This is permanent law.
From Washington County, I'll agree.
Okay, are we finished with, okay, go right ahead.
Oh, I was gonna go to I, if there was no. So on I, it looks like they went back to the old language instead of including Cherokee Nation and the entities. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, we did go back to the old one, didn't we, Willard? Is this
I make a
messed up?
motion to return to the inclusion of the Cherokee Nation and its entities.
I hope that was just a,
The reason, if I may, the reason for that was during the discussion, there's going to be an employment law that, Terrell employment law that comes out as well. And so for the purpose of this law, I understood that we wanted to exclude.
because we're breaking the law into contracting vendors and then into employment.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think some of our businesses now would be doing contracting, and we're probably gonna need to include them. So when they actually start subbing out some of the contracts, you know, if we actually do a construction project, we're going to need them included to follow this law, so they will actually give Terrell preference to those Terrell businesses that are going to be subs underneath them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was
No,
what
go
I
ahead.
understood.
So, I mean, it is critical, if we're really gonna advance our economy further than where it is today, then it has to include the job development and these other things we're doing. So I don't see, I mean, and the AG office should weigh in on this. I'm not, you can convince me otherwise, but we should comply with our own laws. I don't understand why we're using this as an excuse not to be held accountable, so we need to include this. Did I get a second? Was it Councilman Keener?
Well, I
Okay.
think we're out of line, because to be honest, we need to go back to G before we do this, because we never passed G.
I thought it was just
Pointed out.
concurrence. I thought it was just concurrence, just to delete the space, the unnecessary space.
Yeah, but we never even included G.
Oh, we added it, is that what she said?
Yes.
Oh, because we have, okay,
So do I have a motion?
I'll make a
yes,
motion to include
second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
You're welcome for
Appreciate
bringing it
it.
to my attention.
Uh-huh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion carries. Go right into the next one, Council.
So, on I make a motion that we go back to the red language where it includes the Cherokee Nation and its entities and strike the word excludes.
I've got a question for y'all. I understand her point because it causes concern for me, and I realize we're breaking in the law into two pieces, but it doesn't hinder it by including it in here, does it?
No, I don't believe it does. He may,
And do we need to make the changes about the subcontractor, contractor located in and on, sure, you know?
Yes, and also the two or more persons that was stricken from D, similar language appears in I. So if you want,
If you would read it to us with those changes.
I'm not sure I can, I will try.
Okay.
Um,
We'll give you a minute.
Employer shall mean any person, company, contractor, subcontractor, or other entity located in or on Cherokee Nation Indian Country or engaged in work with the Cherokee Nation, comma, its entities or wholly owned corporations, period, striking employing two or more persons. For the purpose of this act, comma, the term employer, and you want that to be now includes, so we would
Yes.
strike excludes,
Right.
Cherokee Nation, and then adding in its entities and wholly owned corporations, federal, state, and county government agencies,
Yeah.
or you could do and includes or including and strike but, either way. But should be stricken and put and includes. And just realize, once this is all done, I'll have to read it again to make sure it makes sense after we've made all the changes.
I'm curious, since we took out subcontractors up here, why are we leaving it down here?
I just forgot to mention that one.
Madam Chair, also located in a Cherokee Nation Indian Country, do we need to strike that? Or at least-
This one is a little different because it also adds, or engaged in work with the Cherokee Nation, its entities. So it kind of covers it on that one, but for consistency, we might be able to reword that. I'm not sure how to do it at the moment.
Councilwoman Watson, is your motion?
I might have to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna look at this again.
Yes.
So I'm gonna accept it, I mean,
Okay.
yes. Does my second accept?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Motion
Thank you.
made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. And I mean, if this is repetitive, when we get the other part passed, I can understand coming back, cleaning it up, taking it out. But I do agree it ought to be in there while we're in limbo. Any questions on P?
On J, is that what?
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay, so, I know there's not necessarily a change here, I guess, but I'm concerned that whether they're tarot or non-tarot, are we trying, the way it reads, maybe I'm just over-reading it, but are we trying to tell folks how to do business even when they're not actually engaged in work with us?
as far as our businesses, how to do work else outside of us?
Yes.
No, no ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. That was the only question I had.
Next one.
So, because it's locally owned, can we include at least all of the 14 counties, not the parts, like part of Tulsa County, part of Muskogee County, part of Ottawa, even there's a corner of Rogers County? Can we just make it all of the entire 14 counties instead of just the jurisdictional service area?
That, how it reads now would include the entire county.
That's how we define
plus-
contiguous, as it includes the whole county.
Oh, okay, so that, because that wasn't in the other definition, was it?
This is actually new. This actually came from the executive order. We just brought it from the, and the reason
Okay.
we brought it over is in the executive order, the purchasing
Move
department.
to approve is provided for section P.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
It
Any
could be,
questions on
I know.
Q?
But see,
Or-
this could still will actually use CNI was the one that actually employed this at the time.
I noticed on our, seems to me, but over on page 718 at the top, do we have a conflicting, somewhere it seems to be in conflict to me.
Oh, at the top is that?
Top of 7. And I don't know if I should just wait until we get to 7. John's, we've got to do one or the other, I guess, so I'm looking at major Cherokee employer, that's not necessarily a Cherokee-owned company, is that correct?
We are actually changing that to now to be a major Cherokee employer and receive preference. You have to be Cherokee-owned and a major Cherokee employer. That'll give you a higher price, a better preference, a higher tier. A non-Indian, still set underneath, a non-Indian company that's owned is still non-Indian owned. I don't know how we, because they don't get a preference above Cherokee preference, and they don't get a preference above other Indians. The company's still non-Indian owned. So what we're looking at is, I think our plan is, and I hope you guys agree with me, I guess, is we want our Terrell businesses, our Cherokee-owned businesses, to hire our citizens. Is that correct? That's all we want. So this is going to help us, I think, help us enforce that, where our Cherokee citizens, that own the businesses, are Terrell certified, they will get an extra preference in bidding if they start hiring more of our Cherokee citizens. Instead of being Cherokee-owned, and out of my 25 employees, I have 4 Cherokees. It will benefit some of the businesses that we have that are Cherokee-owned, that have 25 or 15 or 10 Cherokees that actually in their business, and that's their whole, they're 100%. Yeah, they're going the extra step in hiring our citizens after receiving preference with us and keeping them on their payroll, not just hiring them job for job. So, because ours is twofold. One is to get preference, 2 is to make sure our citizens get hired. And we're trying to help our citizens get attached with our Indian-owned companies. What we're trying to do.
So major Cherokee employer, instead of it being a non-native hiring a bunch of Cherokees, you have to be, the owner has to be Cherokee now, plus hiring Cherokees.
Yeah, or other Native American
Okay.
to get that extra preference.
The owner has to be Native American.
Yes, or Cherokee.
Okay.
And 75% or more of your project team or core crew list have to be Cherokees, or 50 more of your employees have to be Cherokees to get that extra preference.
Okay.
So it's two.
Those numbers are just backwards, it's actually 50 employees.
50 employees and 75%? Okay, sorry. Well, I should have read it forward when I said it. I read the second one first.
Yes. Joe Irvin requested he be able to join the Terrell group.
So moved. Do we have a quorum still?
That's what I'm checking. There's 6 of us, where's our 7th?
We needed 7 that were already members, no, we don't. Right now, we don't have a quorum. We can't make a motion. We've got 5 in here right now.
So the meeting's suspended for the
No,
moment.
we've got 2 right here.
Going back in.
We need you for a quorum, sorry.
Janelle out there.
Janelle's not over yet.
Okay.
We need one more quorum. One more. We had 7 because there's 12.
Okay.
Can somebody find Don Garvin? Was Don Garvin a member?
Yes.
He's in the office.
You should make a motion and approve it.
No. We have to have Don.
Remember until we get
Yes,
quorum
ma'am.
in here.
Raymond, sit down.
Actually, at times you can, I think there's
Now,
a process, I think that
join the Terrell settlement. Motion?
Second.
We were on, what were we on?
We can talk.
Councilwoman Watts, any more on ARC?
No, I think that we should pass it.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Councilwoman Rose?
Yeah, I'm still going back to R, does that mean it's a Cherokee-owned company? And I guess not.
It doesn't have to be Cherokee-owned, but here's how the preference labels. If I'm a Cherokee-owned company and I have major Cherokee employers, that is the best of the best preference. Now, if I am a Choctaw-owned Terrell business and I have a major Cherokee employer, I can't beat a Cherokee, but I get better than all other Indians that are Terrell certified. I move one step above them. That's how it works. But you can never pass a Cherokee, but you can pass the other tribal members that you want. Does that make sense? Does that work?
Can we spell that out here?
Yeah, it's spelled out on that page 7, I believe, unless I messed it up. Okay, yeah. First preference will be given to Cherokee-owned businesses that are major Cherokee employers. Second preference to go to just a plain Cherokee-owned business. Third preference will go to businesses that are other Indian-owned, like Osage, Choctaw, that are major Cherokee employers. And then the fourth and final preference will be Osage certified terrorists. Those are the four. We still keep four Indian preferences, but you can actually take a step up by hiring our people from outside your box.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion been made?
This is
Second.
for R, right? Call for question.
Any questions been called? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Move to approve you as provided.
Okay, no motion second, any discussion? What was the change made to this?
We actually added in a stop in the one-stop business center into our Terrell law that actually makes it, where it labels it inside our law, that where people will know where to go and to do things. It was in the executive order, we just moved it over.
Okay.
I don't know if Anna knows that, but we put it in there for her.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Madam Chair, would you get us a copy of that executive order?
All those opposed? Motion carries. Any questions? We're on section 5.
Madam Chair, before we go to section 5, I have one more definition I'm going to ask about that you talked about, John, on emergency. Do we need to define that?
Yes, I think we will need to define an emergency situation, because if we don't define it here, then we're actually going to, we may have 3 or 4 different definitions of an emergency. Like the government may define emergency something, and then the business side may define it as emergency as something different.
The biggest problem I have with emergency was just what you said, poor planning is not an emergency.
Yeah, so we need to
You
get
know, it's
a
costing
good
us money,
definition.
and it's just poor planning. If they are there with our money, okay, and money going out, then they need to be responsible.
Madam Chair, as chair, would you ask our AG and Terrell office to bring forward an emergency definition in their redraft for the next meeting? Thank you.
Did you get that, Willard?
No, I'm sorry, I was just gonna.
We need to draft a definition for emergency.
Okay.
Did we go on you? That's 5. Is that okay?
That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, back to section 5. Page 4, anything you want to discuss? Okay, that part of it. How about page 5?
Madam Chair, so I completely concur. The one step that I'm not sure that it needs to be in the law, but I need to be clear on, will it be clearly posted, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, before they bid on a contract, these requirements, and then a list to the job bank somehow so they can, we know, we give them a solution on that they can actively hire and will need to. And then remind them at the time of the contracting when they're selected.
Yes, we will actually do that when we go to attend the pre-bid meeting. We actually do that now. Under the current law, we do it differently because it'll be different here. We actually will do that at a pre-construction meeting when they get ready to do this. We actually, I don't have a list of our job bank people until I pull it off the list off the back end because there's phone numbers and addresses on that. So we kind of keep that guarded because those are Cherokee citizens' private information. We actually will inform them when we start. And our intention is after this law is passed by this body, we will actually we will send letters out to every Terrell vendor that wants it, that if they're planning on doing business with us before they can actually do business, they are going to have to come and we are going to go through the law with them at, say, the Hard Rock, West Side Loan, down in Muskogee, up north. So all these Terrell businesses come in and we can go over the law with them with all the changes. We're going to try to make that mandatory on them if they want to do business with us. Now, the non-Indian owned companies, what we will do is at the site, with the pre-bid meetings, we will have CDs made and we will have hard copies made, probably mostly CDs though, that when they come in and say, look, here is the Terrell law. It is on this CD. You're signing off that if you receive an award on this project, you have read the Terrell law and you agree to abide by it. And then that way, they're stuck. They signed it that they've read the Terrell law and they're going to comply. So that way there's no one knows what's going on.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The page 5, V on work permits, item 1 through 5.
I still have a question on that.
Okay, you go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The per award, striking that, will that help you or help them not have loopholes?
Actually, the per award actually closes a loophole. For instance, if you have let's just always make it simple. We're doing a big project, electrical company comes in, or even a concrete company comes in and has 4 different concrete projects. Well, they can't just pay for the one on the one. They have to do it per award, separately contracts. Because right now, C&E and our other entities here, actually, we break out these contracts into smaller sections for the Terrell vendors to actually have a better chance of actually receiving the bids. So per award is what we wanted to keep, so it doesn't lock them in at one time, and then they get 5 different facets of the project. And I may not be saying that
You
right,
said
but
you do want to keep it, but it's
yeah,
stricken.
per award.
But it's stricken. So that's, I was just
Am I
making
missing
sure.
that? I'm sorry. Yeah, per award is what we want.
So we do not want to stricken.
Yeah, we don't want to strike that. Right, Willard? I think we did that when we were.
No, we wanted to go, because it was per.
Yeah, we crossed it out, but we want it to be per award, right?
No, we want it per employee, per
Day.
per day.
Every person on
Every-
site is $25 a day. So if you have 10,
That's
25
the way I
times 10 per
understood
day.
it.
Okay, no matter when they're on site, correct?
Right.
They have the different ones.
Right.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's right.
So it's
right, I'm
same,
sorry.
right,
I'm
okay,
confused.
that's okay. I want to make sure. Also on number 4, with the indulgence of this body,
Just separate
take
it
out
out.
the space between
It's just-
dash and Indian.
I concur. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And then we have to approve it.
What was that change?
Taking the space out on number 4, after dash and before Indian.
Just to make sure that these are the people we can replace. Because that way we need to see anyway,
Yes,
because
yes.
if they just hire 6 supervisors.
So John, is
I'm ready to do
the
projects.
$25, let me go over that again to make sure what we're talking about. Per day, per employee, which is more than it was before. Is that correct?
Actually, currently it's $25 a one-time fee.
Right.
And we can actually go to an employer and ask them to replace, we have Cherokees or other Native Americans we can replace them with. And on the 4th day, we start charging $25 a day. Mostly what we've been doing is if the projects, some of the projects are 3 days long or 4 days long, they're in and out, they're done. So This will be on a per-day basis. This is going to change the life of the staff. So they are actually going to do some different things, we haven't figured out how we're actually going to do the $25 per day, how we're going to collect for it, but that on our side, we'll just tweak a system that works for everything else. It'll be different for the housing side compared to the commercial side. You know, we may have the commercial people pay each week instead of on the housing side where we could collect it daily if we had to because of the smaller job sites.
And this will start the first day?
It'll start day one, yes, sir. Day one.
And that's exactly what it was.
Yes. So $25 a day actually puts, as Councilman Fishing Hawk says, puts a $3 per hour premium on a non-Indian on your site every day.
I never said, I figured it, more people on there, you had extra $3 an hour.
Should be more.
Yeah, I got voted down.
So mine got voted down too because I wanted the one-time fee.
You wanted one time fee, and I said, no, let's do it per hour.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries on page 6. And I want to say something, John, after we do this today, can you get to the committee all the changes we made today? Because I know we're not going to get through it, but get it to us, you know, as quickly as you can, not right before
By
committee, so that
email.
everybody can look over it.
What I think we'll do is from here on out, I think, and I want to say thank you to Willard and Tammy because they actually put all this together for us and rewriting it. I'll have Willard actually email it to everyone, including your office as well. And that way, everyone will get it at the same time instead of us giving it to someone and then someone's forwarding it to someone. We'll just try to send it all out at once.
Point of information, are we gonna try to roll this over for tonight?
It's the will of the body, we can take a vote on it.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Are we gonna try to put this on the agenda?
There's no meeting tonight. It's not council
Oh, we
meeting
can
night.
move it to,
Yeah.
Just forward it to the next council meeting?
That was just a question.
you know, it's the will of the body.
Okay, page 6, section 7.
Madam Chair, may I address Mr.
Yeah,
Obracker?
go right ahead,
Just
I'll
didn't
look
cross
at
it,
one.
but that one I did right.
On B, why would we cross out that the above requirements shall apply to an employer as defined by this title? Because now we're getting back into the government, our tribal government's not an employer for the purpose of this title in any business.
Covers like employment and contracting law, Virginia, is that the same answer?
We're actually including it. I mean, it's going to be included. We're just leaving that part out because we don't really need it. All employers, Cherokee Nation included, required to give preference to Indians hiring, as well as anybody who has a contract
Right
with
below
us.
that, it says that the Cherokee Nation government is not an employer for the
We
purpose
need
of
to
this
scratch
title.
that.
Okay.
We need to scratch that part out and.
The
Cher-
not.
Yeah. Is an employer for the purpose of this title.
I make the motion to strike not in number 1, under A, in the preference requirements generally.
Second. We have a discussion on the not. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Willard and Tammy, I know you always rush to get this together. It's no reflection on the law.
I'm gonna quit bragging on him now.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, you're kind of taking a beat, we're going to do these, I don't want to say that, way, 'cause I know you've been working hard.
Oh, I don't take any of it personally.
You used to work for the council, didn't you?
I used to work in this
Yeah,
office.
see.
And I think on this part 6, we really don't need the front part if we have the second part, but I think it's just to
Part
help as a
6.
guideline to go through this, correct?
Correct.
And that's all the first part is. The,
Excuse me,
go ahead.
sorry. I think you're way ahead of us. So did we vote on the not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're on 2 and then the A subsections.
Well, what do we do with B?
Just struck B. It's already struck.
Did you preach it?
I'll agree to this.
Yeah, you're projecting.
Backing it out.
About to drive me out of the room. We won't have a quorum. You're gonna have to. You're reverberating off the walls.
Motion to
As it's written. Okay, I've got a motion
That is
to
funny.
approve B to be struck as it's written on B. Okay, strike B. All those in favor? Oh,
No, now I'm with you, all right. Yes.
okay. All those
Sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And we've already voted on not. Okay.
Just the nine.
We've already done the not. Okay, we're on to this 2.
Yes.
Let's do all at once if we can come up with it.
I move to accept A through E and 1 through 4 under E.
Okay,
second.
we got a second? Any more discussion? All those in favor of accepting A through E and 1 through 4 on the next page, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. On to number 3.
Madam Chair, okay, this is where we get into trouble where we think we pass a law and there's intent and then it doesn't get implemented. In 3, the word may develop policies. So we're gonna get real excited and we're gonna tell our folks out in the community about this, and then they may develop policies, or they may not.
I agree with
I would
you.
make a motion that may shall be shall.
Second.
Any more discussion? Did you want any more changes for number 3? Is that what I understand? Instead of vote on these individual?
I don't, but if,
Madam Chair, I have a question. We're making changes to some of the Terrell laws here. When was the last time, we're changing this with the new administration, when's the last time we have amended or made changes to these? On a major scale like we're doing today?
2005.
2005, so 7 years ago?
no.
No.
Last year.
Last term, we went through this whole thing again, and at the end, there was some disagreements and confusion.
So we're doing this every year? He said 2005.
Every term.
We do it every term, but this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, do y'all agree that this will probably be the first major change that we have, other than the executive order actually putting it into law and including Cherokee?
2005 is not every term, that's.
Well, 2005, they actually made the new Terrell law, legislative act, this one. The old one we're currently in, but in 2007, 2008, we actually tried to work through some different things, and I don't think we ever came up to anything. So all we took was the executive order and just let it go and went on. So this will be the first major change. I think this will be more of a major change than it was from 1983 to 2005. The changes that we're making here are going to be dramatic into the Indian preference and how we're doing things here at the nation.
It opened my eyes when we learned that the Terrell law excluded Cherokee Nation and its entities up till this point. Everybody else can do it, but we're not going to follow it.
Good, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to accept number 4.
Second. Any other discussion?
Second.
How are you actually going to implement this? I've been
Easiest way-
excited about it, but I'm
The
just,
easiest way I can implement this is when we sign the contract with the general or the prime contractor, is stress to him, or he or she who is owner of that company, that if any one of your subs fail or fail to cooperate with Terrell compliance, we are going to hold you responsible because you are the contract holder. You are the one that actually has this site. You are actually bringing people onto our property to perform work for us. You are responsible for that company. So if they fail, you are going to actually suffer for the consequences of that.
John, I've recently learned a little bit more about our roads contracting. Seems like they've kind of got it down because it sounds like they approve the subcontractors before they can actually sign the contract that they've received the award.
That is correct, and I think we tried to do that here at the P and D level. We're trying to get that.
For the record, what's P?
Planning and development.
Thank you.
So we're actually trying to get that further along where they actually, when they submit their bid, they submit their subcontractors at that time.
Does it not work?
Rebecca, you'll have to answer that for me. I don't know. Does that, right now, submitting our subcontractors, that doesn't, we don't actually do that right now. We're just kind of starting that, we're correct?
Well, I think there's a piece of it that, I'm sorry, I think there's a piece of it that each of us, planning and development has to approve those subcontractors from a quality standpoint. You have to approve it from a preference standpoint. We have to look on the DeBark list to make sure we know who those contractors. So what we're looking at now is developing a process where we know who sells to do what, and we should have that soon.
Could you state your name?
I'm sorry, Rebecca Mitchell.
Here.
And could you repeat yourself, could you come
Just come
forward
to the,
or talk louder?
Come forward.
Good heavens, that's the first time anyone's ever told me that.
Don't slap me.
I don't want to be like you and yell at everybody. I'm Director of Acquisition Management, which is contracts and purchasing. Tell me if I'm ready. Subcontractors need to be approved on several levels. On our construction group, which is planning and development, they need to approve them from a quality standpoint. In other words, have they done past poor performance that someone needs to know about? We need to look on the debarred list, the federal debarred list, and make sure that they're not a debarred contractor with the federal government, because we cannot contract with them if they are. John needs to approve them on an Indian preference level. In other words, are they going to comply with TARO? Are they going to manage their subcontractors and their subcontractors in the manner that TARO asked them to? So we need to finalize those discussions we've had on it and how that's going to happen.
Correct.
But we have been discussing it.
you know, that's interesting because our debarment definition right now does not include actively looking at the federal debarment list or even the states. And I think that's an opportunity for us to leverage other people's resources and would, in my mind, would be valid, because obviously if they went through and done something in those other government agencies, we probably shouldn't consider them either.
We do check the DeBar, the federal list.
It's not in the law.
Right, I agree, but we are.
So are we
In practice
providing
doing that.
protections for you if we don't include it in the law?
Well, you're going to, here, we're going to put it in from the executive order into the law, so it puts it in there. What we do, we have a 5-person committee.
Okay, so it's later.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
I will
coming
let
down the
that-
bottom.
thank
So
you.
we have a committee that forms, because under, what we'd like to do, instead of debarring the first taro vendor who makes a mistake, we'd like to provide them training through Anna Knight's One Stop Business Center, so we can actually coach those businesses and teach them to do better, instead of just debarring them. And
Well,
they'll explain that here. a
I'm gonna
little
go
later.
ahead and ask now, since we're all over the place anyway. So, but any kind of theft or, I mean, outright, I guess malfeasance, is that the legal word? I mean, if it is truly like something of an illegal nature, criminal especially, that does not allow them to get retrained, right?
Under the current, it does. But we can actually, and we actually, Nason has actually sit in our meetings with us, and we're trying to get a policy that's clear cut, because when this happened before, we actually, and the reason we formed the committee is because if somebody violated taro law, then we actually took care of it. But if somebody did something else like theft or something, there was no labeling who actually, everybody looked at the taro, but they didn't really violate taro, because they didn't really violate the taro law. But they needed to be debarred, or do they not? So that's why we formed the committee to do all of this, to get everything going.
The debarment process actually affords two avenues that you can go through. Since they refer to Taro can investigate it, but the procurement offices can keep track of them, and if they have underperformance, they can document it. they send it to Taro for a separate investigation, but the procurement office can in themselves put them on the list through the procedure, and if they're on the list administratively, you don't have to add them on if they're on probation. I don't know what the criteria is, but
Right,
at some
we're
point
getting
you
closer
go.
though. It is a process that we gotta make sure who's actually doing it. And there will be a 5-person, right now, there's a 5-person committee that not one person will actually debar someone. They'll actually sit into the committee, and the committee will actually vote after a person from the Terrell staff does the complete investigation. To see if they need to be brought.
John, probably nothing wrong with this, but it just seems a little bit out there. On number 4, you know, you award the general contractor, maybe subcontracted, provided that the inland preference requires here apply. That sounds good. Then it goes to say, regardless of the level of subcontracting activity. That seems kind of just,
Well,
anything goes. Is that?
well, the reason we actually did that is because some of the construction projects, we may have a 5 or 6 tier level subcontractor. And we want to make sure that we can reach that very last one, no matter how far they go. Because normally it stops at the contractor, subcontractor, and that's it. You don't go to the 3rd tier, 4th tier, 5th tier, 6th tier sub. And we want to make sure we can reach down to that 6th tier sub
There was a
and
reason
say,
that
you're
you
out of
put
compliance.
regardless of that activity. But,
Yeah.
okay, so you're okay with that?
Yeah, we're okay with that. That's why we wanted to make
All
sure.
right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Harvey? You heard a motion.
I made a motion to accept 4, and I don't remember, there was like multiple seconds
Okay.
thrown
All
out.
those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. It's about time to start the second meeting.
Make a motion that we adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we'll take up from here. Councilman?
Point of order,
You can make, Lee.
make a motion to table this until the next meeting, both items. But before, and they need to be emailed to us with whatever edits.
Wait a minute, we already voted on one before. What are we talking about?
Tabling the whole items until the next meeting.
The rest of the items?
Like
Yes.
both
We just
pieces of
read
legislation tabled till the next meeting.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, before we, because I haven't had a second, so I still have the, is that you ask the other, and I know you're not, if you'll talk to Hoskin Jr., if we could switch times so that redistricting is first at this time and this is later.
He will be here shortly, and you can, I will be sending something out, or have Chuck send something out on the time. And like I said, could you, when you all make the changes, as soon as they're made, would you hand it out to all of us so we can?
Yes, ma'am, we sure will, as soon as we get those. I'm hoping we can have those done by tomorrow afternoon. Add the ads.
We tabled this anyway. Who's gonna make the motion to, you already made a motion?
To adjourn?
I made a motion to table.
The motion to adjourn takes precedence over the rest of them. Yeah, that's what we're ready to vote on.
So we're just gonna abandon our legislation?
No, we just, you said we're going to address this in our next meeting, is that correct? We got a motion on the table.
All those in favor?
What if I
Your shoe, Mr. Bird.